Hello, and welcome to It's Only a Game. What the Chelsea's board, Everton's defence, and this episode have in common? We've got absolutely no fucking plan. Anyway, we are joined tonight by Chris of the 90s Grumble, amongst many other ventures. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm not so bad, mate. We unfortunately are without many of the team tonight for various reasons. Greg, hopefully should be joining us later. Again, like I say, no plan. It's all good. But yeah, all good here. Just getting on with life as normal. And I can see you wearing your Darlington cap at the moment. Obviously, you're a massive Darlo fan.
Yeah, it's about the only bit of merch I've got now.
Oh, mate, gone are the days where you had the shirts. And I think I got a shirt off you at one point. I think that's in a charity shop somewhere in Merseyside still now. Darlo shirt. Somewhere from like 2004 or 5, some Darlington shirt. It's like...
Yeah, I just don't suit football shirts anymore, so they're all... Hey, look who it is!
Hey! You're right, mate.
Have you got your microphone plugged in, Jim? Because you sound like you're on Mars.
Oh, I plugged it in earlier, and it sounded like I was on Mars, apparently, according to Chris, so this is the better of the options, apparently.
Yeah.
It's all good. So, yeah, you were saying you just don't have footy shirts anymore, Chris?
No, they just don't suit me anymore. They're all in them fancy Italian designs, and yeah, just don't suit them.
Wasn't there a competition with Darlington? I remember you telling me about years ago when you were supplied by Area, where someone could go out and see the kit get made in Italy or something.
I think so, yeah. But they're all just template shirts, aren't they? So you're not actually going to see the Darlo shirt again. There's obviously that famous shirt where you could pay to get your name put on it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was Mr. Poo Poo. Because no matter what anyone sent in, it were on there. So Mr. Poo Poo is on that shit. I think I've still got it somewhere.
I mean, was that indicative of Darlington's season that year?
Nah, we got in the playoffs that year.
Oh, that's alright.
Yeah,
Bring back Mr. Poo Poo then?
That Rochdale beat us in the playoffs.
Oh, I remember the season.
Oh, is it the
7-8
2008, was it?
Yeah, we had like no fit strikers for the playoffs at all.
Is that Davy Perkins? It's that match, isn't it?
Yeah, he scored and then got sent off.
Yes, yeah, he missed the final. Yeah, Jason Kennedy.
I feel like we should just do a podcast naming random League 2 footballers from about the mid-2000s. I think we should just do that as the episode. Just give people the content they want.
Is he still playing, Jason Kennedy?
I know, I was talking about him with my mate Johnny the other day in the car. We were talking about Jason Kennedy. And, didn't he end up playing for Tues eventually?
He played for Rochdale, yeah. I think he had 2 spells with Rochdale.
Just based on them great. 2 goals he scored against us.
Absolutely.
He didn't score them very often.
When he did, they were screamers, basically.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick... I'm sure it was twice. Jason Kennedy, Rochdale. I'm sure he'd had 2 spells.
As you can tell from the intro, listeners, we've gone with no plan and we've gone to Jason Kennedy within 5 minutes. This is...
Sorry.
Kennedy.
It's all good. No, it's all good.
2 spells. 2 spells. Right, okay. Yeah, I didn't know he played for Bury as well. Blimey.
He got around. Did that, Jason?
Illustrious low league career.
Oh, absolutely. So, we were just we were chatting before, weren't we, Chris, before we went on, about various things, but you're... Something that, I'd heard, and then obviously you mentioned about you boycotting the Premier League this season. Now, as an Everton fan, so am I. Just reasons why. I think it's refreshing to hear that somebody in this country is boycotting the league when you think about how global it is now, that people are watching it all around the world, that somebody from England, is absolutely going, nah, I haven't followed any bit. I think that's because so many podcasts will be straight in, especially at the weekend, the City Arsenal game and all that. I think it's interesting to take the counter view and go, well...
Don't have a clue what happened. Don't have a clue what happened in that game. Couldn't tell you.
Late draw, mate. So, yeah, exactly. That's really refreshing. So, just any reason you have to justify yourself. I'm just curious as to know what's made you not bother with the Premier League.
Bit boring, isn't it? So boring. The problem I've got with it is they've got these financial player rules in, but they don't actually enforce them properly, do they?
No.
So if they're not going to enforce them, they might as well not have them, is what I'm saying. So I'd rather they didn't have them at all. And I'd rather they did something along the lines of what they do in American sports, where you can spend what you want, but you'll get taxed on it if you go over the tax threshold. That way they can then put that money into the clubs that aren't overspending. You then get less clubs in financial trouble further down the league. I know Greg's in the Manchester area, and they seem to have seen the worst of it, where you've got City have started winning everything, and people aren't going to watch local teams anymore. So they're financially suffering directly because of what City are doing. If that money was then getting pushed down the leagues, and they were getting a bit, lessens the impact of that. Also then levels up the playing field, that some of them smaller teams in the Premier League not necessarily going to be able to actually compete evenly, but more evenly, because they're then getting some of that money which City have been fined for spending God knows how much they want in the next striker.
I think it's a punishment that fits the crime, if you will. If you're going to break financial rules, there should be a financial penalty rather than an on-pitch penalty for it with the points. And I mean, I've gone through this. I mean, I know I'm biased. I've gone through this a number of times last season. It blighted my enjoyment, if you can call it that, of last season. But I heard that the similar argument to yours about the American style, where if you go over a certain spending cap, but it goes back in, like you say, to the entire football league, and goes down as far as funding grassroots football as well, which I think is a pivotal importance in this country, which is, pardon me, grossly underfunded. And I think the amount of money that these clubs have, even like mid-table kind of clubs that don't tend to do much, the amount of money they've got now, they should be able to, if they, overspend, just give a little bit back.
Yeah, it definitely works in America, because baseball, for example, the draft system isn't as prominent. So it's mainly down to who they buy. You do get some good draft picks, and they will be good, but it's very rare. So you get teams like the Dodgers, who spend absolute loads of money and are always over the luxury tax threshold, and the same as the Yankees, and the Mets were really bad for it recently. But even then, they don't necessarily end up going on to win everything, because it works. The system works. It doesn't mean that because you've got the best team, you're definitely going to end up winning everything. But that's what it is in the Premier League, and that's why it's a little bit boring. I just think football in England at the moment is a complete mess due to all the financial stuff. I think the National League is far too congested with big former league clubs or vanity projects. Which they just need to do reshuffle, I think. I think it's been mentioned a few times over the years about regionalising League 2, and I think that would go a long way towards not just helping the smaller clubs out in League 2 with travel costs and stuff, but also rebalancing the football pyramid a bit, because then it would also get some of them teams which are stuck in the National League, which probably shouldn't be, out of the National League. I mean, how long did it take Stockport County to get out in the National League? And they should never have been there. They ended up in our league. We played them for a couple of seasons in National League North, and it should have never happened. And you've got like other teams like was it Chesterfield? Are they still in there? I don't know if they went up yet. Are they?
Chesterfield went up as champions last year.
Champions last year. But yeah, how long it took them to get back up? And it just seems like a graveyard of big clubs, which there's always going to be one there which is spending millions, and if you're not that one team, your chances of going up are very slim. They just need to rebalance it, and once they've rebalanced it that way, it will then all even out, and you get the teams which have got the financial backing will end up in League 1, and then the League 2 and the National League will then even itself out. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of a National League North team. It stands a very slim chance of ever getting into the National League because of how much money it actually costs to get out of our league, which is insane. We've got us, Chester, Kidderminster are yo-yoing at the moment. We've got Scunthorpe. Who else? Southport, they were up there as well.
Hereford as well, I know.
Hereford.
But you got some big names down there.
Yeah. A lot of these were league clubs within the last 10, 15 years. And it's just all down to how unbalanced it is, and there's too many vanity projects. And yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I do sometimes look at our pyramid and think, oh, isn't it great that we've basically got what is essentially 5 professional divisions? I know the National League is non-league, but the majority of the clubs are professionally run, even though it's maybe not the most lucrative. But I think if you look towards other countries, okay, Spain and Germany, for example, they do have B teams in the 2nd or 3rd division, which I sincerely hope never happens. But they've regionalised when you get to the 3rd or 4th tier. And, like Bayern Munich's reserves, for example, playing the 4th division against teams from literally their region. I'm not saying that's the way to go necessarily with, like I say, with B teams, but I think there is something to be said where you got more chance of more local derbies if you're playing regionalised in leagues. You've got lower travel costs, like you say. It'll boost attendances because you can get more away fans. For these clubs that, for example, I think Rochdale was it Eastleigh the other day? Now, I don't know how many Rochdale brought to Eastleigh. If it was indeed, I could be chatting shite. I can't imagine.
13.
In the nicest way, as well supported as you are for the level, you're going right down the south coast. You couldn't even get any more south than Eastleigh, basically. It's a long way to go for a 5th division game on a Saturday,
Well, we're in the National League North. Our first away game of the season was 4.5 hours away at Oxford.
That's disgusting, isn't it? Yeah.
We've got Needham Market in our league. That's closer to bloody London than it is to Manchester. That's how far south that is. We get Brackley every year, which is an absolute chew-on to get to. And we play them every year. It's 4 hours. Leamington, which is in Worcestershire.
Did you have Bishop Stortford last year?
We had Bishop Stortford.
Basically right next to the airport or something.
Yeah, it Stansted Airport. And we had... we had bloody Blythe and South Shields in our league, but that's an extra hour on. So you've got South Shields who are and Blythe, a really small club, and they're having to travel. Well, not now because they've finally got themselves relegated, but yeah, they were having to travel down to Bishop Stortford, and it's just absolute insane travel for. In our league, it's just absolutely ridiculous, and it's obviously worse for them because their closest game's about 2 hours away.
Yeah, it is mental, but I think the 6th tier or step 2, if you want to refer it to that, the distribution of clubs is always difficult because you have got those 2 regionalised leagues and 48 clubs. I mean, conversely, there was a thing about, I think last year I saw Blythe going to Bishop Stortford. It was about the same distance of travel from Truro City in Cornwall going across the south of England to, I can't even think where, somewhere in the southeast. It's just that there's such a cluster of clubs around the London area that mean that you're going to end up with clubs basically just north of Watford in the National League North. It's insane.
Yeah. It's not as I'll say it's not as bad. I think we've still got 3 or 4 treks this year. We lost Blythe, so we've only really got Spenny, which is practically in Darlo, South Shields, and then the next nearest one's Scarborough, which is about an hour and a half. So, yeah,
that puts it into context, doesn't it, Chris, in terms of an hour and a half and all the other teams that you've just mentioned that are 4 hours and different things like that. It's just going back to your original point, Chris, in terms of you're sort of not really keen on the Premier League or keeping an eye on it. I watched what did I watch? I think it was West Ham Aston Villa, first weekend of the Premier League, and I had about half an hour to myself. I said, I'll just watch this. And I fell asleep. Honestly, I fell asleep. And I thought, this is supposed to be top flight box office football, and there were nothing to it. And I was like,
sure that's being dad to a 1-year-old, Greg, more than the Premier League football?
It could be that as well. But
no,
it's a bit of both. A bit of both. But I'm with you on that, Chris, in terms of usually I don't have a lot of time to watch other teams apart from mine. And when I do tune in, it's a bit of a letdown, really. And I always think, well, I could have probably done something else with that time, or that half an hour, or hour and a half. So I can understand where you're coming from. And when you get the the smaller teams in the FA Cup games when they get the mainstream sort of BBC ITV treatment, they're more entertaining. And I'm not just saying that. That's
you don't even get them anymore though, Greg. They don't even pick the right teams for that.
No.
I mean, let's be honest. As soon as the FA Cup kicks off, Wrexham are going to be on whoever they play.
Oh yeah.
They don't even pick the right teams. I mean, I know it's through rose-tinted specs, but the year we got Swindon in the FA Cup and we knew we were going to win that game. We knew we'd win that. We knew that we were nailed on shot, and they didn't pick that. And what happened? We went on and beat them 2-1 the season before that. We had Walsall. They were terrible and we were flying in the league. Another great chance for an upset. They didn't pick that. What happened? We scored a 97th minute equaliser. So they don't even pick the right games for them. They pick the ones which are going to get the views, which I get. But the FA Cup was always supposed to be about the smaller teams. And that was the magic of it. They were always supposed to pick the lowest ranked team. Was always supposed to be on, regardless of who they played, because that was how it worked. And you would have thought that now that they show even more games, because they show them on TNT, whatever it's called now, and they show extra games on the iPlayer. You usually have a choice of games now, and they're still not picking the smaller teams, and they've ruined that. And then another point I want to make about top flight football is, as well as boycotting the Premier League, as soon as Darlo are out the FA Cup, I'm not going to be watching that either. Because
that's fair enough, yeah.
Taking away the replays from the first round is completely spoiled it. Because as a non-league fan, we get a team, say we draw, we get through, and we get someone like Birmingham City away in the... or even at home, regardless, what are we going to be doing? What's our aim going to be for that game? Was always going to be set up, try and get a replay, because the more money you get in, you'll get another TV game. Can't do that now, so little teams, little non-league teams are now expected, if they get the first round, go to these big teams to try and win, and that's the only way they're going to get another TV game. It's completely spoiled it. Like, I've made the point, was speaking about this during our game at the weekend, that Walsall game where we equalised in the 97th minute, if that was this season, there would have been no chance in hell we would have gone on to win that game, because fitness levels, night and day between professional teams and us. So it just spoils it. Like, if you score a 97th minute equaliser and you're in the bloody Evo Stick Premier League and you've gone to, I don't know, Morecambe or something like that, and you've scored a 97th minute equaliser, you deserve a replay. You don't deserve to be forced into playing another 30 minutes in a penalty shootout against a professional team who are probably going to beat you. You've done your job. You've gone there. They haven't been able to beat you in 90 minutes. It's tough shit. So it is. And if you're like bloody, because it's the Premier League teams which have come up with this and they want the bloody replays scrapping, like bloody Jurgen Klopp, for example, if you can't get your Liverpool team to beat most of the teams you're going to draw in the FA Cup, then you bloody deserve to have to play another game. Like, it's just like, I mean, it's just stupid. It's just, the FA Cup was the one sacred part of football for me. Like, the FA Cup was the best bit of football, because being a lower league fan my entire life, so the FA Cup, that's the magical bit. I don't get to see many big games or big moments week to week, but when the FA Cup comes around, you've got that, oh right, here we go, something could happen here. Greg will obviously remember equalising against Tottenham in stoppage time and getting to go to Wembley. If you'd equalised and had to go for another 30 minutes, do you think you would have won that, or do you think Tottenham would have just made the relevant changes and absolutely battered you in extra time?
Exactly, yeah. They most likely would have beat us. There's a high possibility they'd have beat us. Yeah. But as you say, and as well as not just the FA Cup, but I think it was the replays FA Cup, Newcastle. We got Newcastle away. We drew with them at Scotland. I think it was 1-1. And then we went to St James's Park and they stuffed us 6-1. But it was a day out. It was great to be at St James's Park with my dad. Yeah. Tick the box off, tick that one off as a ground. But really, that the revenue from the home game and the away game kept us going, for another 2 seasons or whatever it were. It's a shame they've binned it off. But as you're talking about Jurgen Klopp, he's not at Liverpool anymore. So can we change it back now?
Yeah,
can we change it back to how we had it?
Well, Pep's just as bad, isn't he? But
I've
got this point where, right, if you want to win everything, you're gonna have to play the games to win everything. If you don't want to win everything, prioritise which one you want to win and focus on that. If you don't want to win the FA Cup because you don't care about it anymore, that's absolutely fine. Don't prioritise it. Maybe it'll give some of the lesser Premier League teams a better chance. Or if the League Cup's the one they all absolutely hate, but I used to love the League Cup when we were in League 2 because you always seem to get Leeds every year, so it was always great. You got a good game to go to. But if you don't want to win that, don't put your kids out, make some changes, try to get yourself knocked out. But don't scrap the magic of a tournament from the teams that do care about it, because the only people that it's really going to affect are the people that actually still gave a crap about the FA Cup, which, to be honest, didn't really seem like anyone apart from the teams below the Championship at this point. But yeah, really, really angry when they scrapped that. Really angry. Still am.
I'm with you with the League Cup because we somehow always ended up against the Yorkshire team. So it was either we got Sheffield Wednesday or somebody like that, and you think, oh, go on. And then it just becomes a little bit more tasty in terms of being a Lancashire team and you're playing a Yorkshire team. But I missed the League Cup. We're not in it, obviously, anymore this season. Well, past few seasons. But we had some cracking games in the League Cup as well, and you just think... When Bradford got to the final a couple of years ago, was that 2011, something like that? 2013. Yeah, that was everybody. Well, unless you were a rival to Bradford, possibly everybody wanted Bradford to do it. Nearly. Gary Jones were captain that day, ex-Rochdale. But yeah, that was something that you followed all the way through Bradford because they beat Chelsea, was it? Arsenal. Aston Villa.
Villa and Arsenal, definitely.
That was it.
I think Chelsea with the FA Cup, yeah, we're at 4-3.
Yeah.
Because Chelsea played the other semi against Swansea. That's when Eden Hazard got in the fight with the ball boy.
That's the one. Crikey, that's good memory. But yeah, that's the sort of thing that happens with... I have no affiliation to Bradford apart from they had Gary Jones who used to play for us. But you wanted them to do it every time that they came up against somebody big. And you're like, go on. But you don't get it as much.
We had some belters in the League Cup. I remember we beat Bradford on penalties. And I think we got rewarded with a trip to Wolves. We got beat there. Then one year, we got Reading when Reading were in the Premier League. I'm pretty sure it finished 4-4. And I think they won in extra time with a hand of God goal. But I'm pretty sure we scored 2 absolute screamers in it as well. I think it was when we had Simon Johnson, and I mean it might have been the season where we got Julian Joachim as well. I can't remember. But yeah, I was used to enjoy it. I even got a trip to Watford in the League Cup. I think we equalised in the 94th minute when Greg Blundell bloody chipped the goalkeeper. We got beaten extra time, and all it really did was mean we weren't getting back to Darlo till about 4 in the morning. But yeah, I was used to enjoy that. I don't know why. It's high on big teams not enjoying it, to be honest.
It's a tough one. I mean, sorry, go on, Jim.
No, just the Tranmere seem to get Leicester every year and repeat the 2000 League Cup final. Curiously, of course, I don't think I mentioned before, Joe Murphy, the goalkeeper, who's now 42. He was in goal for Rovers in the 2000 League Cup final when he was obviously a lot younger. But then he's obviously played against Leicester in the same competition the last 2 years, both at Prenton Park and the King Power. So there's been a weird sort of symmetry to that there, where, that's the kind of competition, the kind of stories that can throw up in that tournament. And like I say, Leicester, Championship last season, Premier League this season, not a massive title for Rovers. They brought a few thousand down on a cold Tuesday night and got smashed, was it 5-4, 5-1 or something, or 5-0 or something. But it's a massive occasion for the smaller clubs. They're not the kind of grounds they go to every year. And I think to bring it back to the cup replays, it's so frustrating. I know you might think, oh, he's a Premier League supporter, therefore. No, I'm a football fan first and foremost, and some of the best games that I've been involved with, certainly watching whatever else, have been replays. You know, we forget how many great replays there've been. I mean, God, remember back when there were second replays and, you know, just infinite replays. I mean, I know we played Liverpool in the 90s and drew 4-4. I think that was the first or second replay then. Then speaking of managers that come out against this, you've got Thomas Frank at Brentford as well, who, you know, Klopp and Guardiola, you go, okay, I don't like what they're saying, but if they've got a massively stacked European calendar, okay, you know, you can kind of understand it even if I don't agree with it. Thomas Frank, it's like, mate, do some research on the club you manage. Your club was literally in the bottom two divisions not that long ago, financially on its arse, until Matthew Benham's coming in and ran them beautifully, it must be said. But what they'd have given for a quality FA Cup replay back about 10 years ago. You know, football isn't, it feels like now, football's becoming more sort of like, right, if you're in the right place at the right time, you're in that place forever. You know, Brentford were a very small club a few years ago, and you know what they'd have given to be in the position they are now, obviously, and what they'd have given to have a replay against a bigger team. But then you've got other clubs now down the pyramid who are like, well, what about us? We were up there now. And things can fluctuate and change so quickly. You've got managers and clubs voting on things that may not affect them if they have a couple of bad years. All of a sudden they find that they've voted against themselves and they've fucked themselves up big time. And it seems people seem to forget where they come from more and more once they get to the Premier League. It's all about the big dollar. And to maximise that, and we'll get on to another thing, I'm sure, Greg, you know we're going to bring it up, mate, soon, about another sort of money, not a money spinner, but a money maker, kind of. It's a competition that's been introduced.
Yes. Yeah.
Which has got nothing through the FA Cup replays being scrapped, apparently. I'm not sure about that. But, yeah, it's so frustrating to see as a football fan that we've got such a great bunch of clubs, such a great pyramid, that we've got the select few shitting on the rest, but it's just modern sport, isn't it?
Yeah, we're jumping around a little bit on different topics and different teams. I'm gonna dip. I don't know if you've already spoken about Darlington, Chris. I don't know if you have this season so far, or
yeah. Well, this season so far. Well, we'll go into last season, to be honest, because we ended the season prior to that. And it's been a bit crap, to be honest with you. I mean, we go back to Christmas 2022. We were away at Scarborough on, I believe, January the 2nd of that season. We battered them 4-2 in a ridiculously dominant attacking performance. And in that moment, I thought we were nailed on to get ourselves up the National League. Darlo then did what Darlo do when we sold Mark Beck, our top scorer at the time, target man. After him and Jacob Hazel had a really good partnership of tearing it up. We sold him. Hazel was able to keep the running for a couple of months. Then we had a patch where we won one game in 11. Crashed out of being in contention for winning the league, crashed out the playoffs, and Alan Armstrong should have lost his job then, but instead they gave him a 2-year extension. So most of our budget comes from fan donations. We have a Boost the Budget campaign where we pledge what we can afford, and then it gives the manager more money to spend on players. Every single year we outdo ourselves and we give him more money, so we give Alan the most amount of money a manager's ever been given by us to, get us over the finishing line of what happened the previous season. We didn't want that to happen again. There's obviously quite a lot of anger that we'd sold our best striker. We'd done it with Charman, where we sold him to you, and we were awful after that. We kept just having this good forward, like potentially like top scorer in the league, and then we'd sell him. We just kept doing that. But we gave Alan all this money, and honestly, he signed the biggest pile of crap I've ever seen. And I've watched some bad Darlington teams, but that team for the up until February of this year is by far the worst team I've ever watched. I could not do a thing. couldn't defend, leaked goals like nothing I'd ever known in my life. Midfield was awful. We had Jacob Hazel up front by himself with no target man, so he ended up doing absolutely nothing. He went to Boston, got promoted. Shows how fine he was. But we had like the main striker he'd brought in, a guy called Mitch Curry, who'd played for like bloody Inter Miami 2 or something like that, and then came over and he tried hard, but he weren't good enough. I mean, one of them seasons we've all had them where with your team's been that bad and they try and fill so many holes that you forget half the people who have played for you that year. Well, about 2 months into the season, I think we'd won one game. Alan finally got the sack, which he should have got before the season had even started. And we brought in... well, there was loads of names in the hat. There was Steve Watson. David Hodgson's name was thrown about, which would have been absolutely bloody fantastic, and he would have got my vote. Martin Gray, former Darlington manager, who left on really bad terms, he was named. I was even fine with that at this point because it was that bad. One person we didn't think was going to get the job was Josh Gowling, previously of Hereford United, who was absolutely awful there. Well, they gave him the job. We suspect it was because he was a cheap option, and the worst manager I've ever seen, ever. Like, the bloke had absolute no clue whatsoever. He changed the team constantly. It was never the same lineup ever. He brought in the worst signing we've ever made. There's obviously been worse players to play for Darlington, but Kwasi Asante is the worst signing we've ever had, because this is fan money which he was spending, and he brought in this bloke who hadn't played football for Chesterfield for a year. He wasn't fit. He came in. He managed to play about 10 minutes of football, the entire thing, and then he was just injured for the rest of the season. Awful signing, absolutely crap. The results were even worse. We got beat 8-0 away at Chorley, which is the biggest defeat I'm ever going to see. If it gets worse than that, something's gone seriously wrong. Luckily, I wasn't there for it, but unfortunately, National League TV exists, and it was on a Tuesday night, so I had to sit through that. Awful. We had a decent core of the team, but Gowling alienated them all and dropped them all, and we ended up losing all them and just got this just crap kids which you'd signed from somewhere down south, which they then had to travel up north to come to play for us, and it doesn't work. It was awful. He should have been sacked within months, but obviously we were paying him. It got to like, I think eventually it were after, again, we were away at Scarborough around Christmas, and to be fair, it was probably the best performance we put in under Gowling. We looked alright, but we lost 2-0, so he got fired, and then we finally brought in Steve Watson, who should have been given the job in the first place. We were like 12 points adrift from safety in as deep into the season as February, and went on the most ridiculous run you could imagine, and it weren't documented enough within the media, or you've got these bloody content creators which like to cover stories and that. None of them were covering this. Like, it was literally probably the biggest escape there'd been last year of any team, where we couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo, couldn't keep a clean sheet to save our lives, we couldn't even pick up a point, we couldn't even buy a point, and we just started winning game after game. Cameron Solkel just started scoring goals for fun. A guy who, even this season, I don't know what he were doing last season to try scoring all them goals, but he did. But yeah, we just started winning games and somehow managed to stay up. And that was the biggest achievement I've seen as a Darlington fan, to be honest. We've won trophies and promotions, but to be like 10-12 points adrift in February and manage to stay up in a tragically, well, to be fair, it were a very evenly balanced league. It were a hard league to go up from, and it was quite a hard league to go down from as well, it seemed. But yeah, so on the back of that, we're going to this season. Again, we give Steve the most amount of money we've ever given a manager to spend. We've sold the most season tickets we've sold. But we've also got the smallest squad I think we've had for quite some time, which alarm bells were ringing early on when I saw the squad photo, and it looked like there were about 10 people on it. Starting the season off, we couldn't really afford too many injuries. What are we, like a month and a half in? We've had 8 first team players out already, which isn't great. I think our main striker, Cedric Main, has probably played a game and a half, so struggled for goals. But we don't seem to concede. We've kept 6 clean sheets in a row in the league, so we're a hard team to beat. So that gives you hope for when our attacking players come back, that we can start turning these draws or narrow wins into more convincing performances. So yeah, it's been quite a decent start to the season. To be fair, we're a point off the playoffs. We're through to the next round of the FA Cup after an interesting tie for our first qualifier. We're away at West Didsbury and Charlton near Old Trafford. And,
yeah, because they say it's this way on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they were a cracking little club, them. Worth a shout out. So it was a complete sellout for that, but apparently it's not far off that for most of the games. They get 700, 800. Little shed behind the goal, which didn't shut up for the entire game, with loads of songs you don't usually hear. So they were quite creative for that. Decent little setup. Beer freely available. No one misbehaving. Lovely. We were awful, but managed to pick up the win. So yeah, shout out to them for being very welcoming and just generally a nice club. If you're in the Manchester area like Greg is, I'd highly recommend checking them out if you're not doing anything and they're at home, because yeah, it were bloody great. I'd definitely watch them if I was in the area. But yeah, decent start for Darlo. Hopefully we can push on playoffs. But for me, we've already talked about the FA Cup, but the FA Cup's a priority for me. I just want us to get a good tie, because we missed out on going to Swindon and Bristol Rovers because of COVID. Have just clamming on us getting a decent away game in the FA Cup, so we can take a couple of thousand down again, make an absolute crap load of noise and cause another upset.
Absolutely. It's I'm just looking at your fixtures, Chris. So I think you're unbeaten in the last 6, which is quite good. You've got you won the last game 3-0 against Southport at home. Then you got 2 0-0s, which you clean sheet. You probably take the clean sheet. Yeah. Then you won 1-0. Then you got another 0-0, and then you've won 1-0. So as you said before, it looks as if your defence is quite good, really, in terms of it. Just at a glance of those last 6 games, you've not really conceded. Have you conceded any? No, you haven't conceded any in the last 6.
6 league games. We conceded in the FA Cup, so it should be 7, because that goal were about 3 yards offside. But you know, we'll give them it, because that were the biggest game of their existence, and that were probably one of the. It just gives them a nice moment. They deserved it. Everyone deserves the moment in the FA Cup. So that lad there, number 9, he'd scored in every round. And to be fair to him, he should have got another goal. He should have put them 2-1 in front, 1-on-1, and fell over. But yeah, you don't mind conceding goals like that as long as you go on to win the game. Gives them a moment to remember. But yeah,
it's you're talking about the teams in your division before as well. Obviously, you mentioned the likes of Scunthorpe. It looks like Scunthorpe are at the top. They've got one of our... Actually, I don't think he ever played for us in the first team, but it's Stevie Whitehall's son, and I forgot his first name, as a forward for Scunthorpe. He was... his dad was good. He was a very good player in the 90s. What's the... Because obviously, I sort of followed... I follow a few teams that obviously go down the leagues. I'll keep an eye on Darlo and Scunthorpe and Kidderminster, because I've been to these grounds. We've played them. There's a bit of history with us, one way or another. And I call it the old 4th division. What's the latest with Scunthorpe? Are they the favourites, or are they not quite? Are they the favourites?
Yeah. So I'm a bit salty about Scunthorpe, to be honest, because they went into that financial trouble that year, didn't they?
Yes.
Last year they couldn't afford the team. But that entire team stayed. I just felt it was a little bit like cheating. They couldn't afford that team for a few months, but they still got them. They didn't get a points deduction or any sort of punishment for it. But at the end of the day, Scunthorpe shouldn't be in our league. They shouldn't even be in the National League. Scunthorpe, what happened to them were horrible. I'm glad they're out of it, and hopefully they'll push on. Hopefully, we'll overtake them at some point. It's not going to happen. We can't compete with Scunthorpe. Like I said, even our league, there's always one team that's got far more money than anyone else. It's usually Filed. But it's Scunny now, and they'll go out and there'll be someone else. So a little fan-owned club like us, where it's all fan donations, we wouldn't have any investment come in from outdoor that weren't anything other than just sponsorship. We'll never have anyone own the club other than the fans. But yeah, I'd rather just us be safe financially than risk what happening again. So I'm fine with it. But on what planet? I think they had, and don't quote me on it, I'm sure Scunthorpe spent like $1 million on their budget last year. On what planet is National League North having a budget that side? On what planet are any teams in the National League North even semi-full-time? You know what I mean? Like, it should be, the National League North should be full on, just, they've got a day job, they train once a week. But it's not even that, because the clubs in it are big. I think Kidderminster, they're a full-time team. I think we've got 2 or 3 full-time teams in our league. And that's what we're up against every single year, because we're never going to be able to go full-time until we get our own stadium and regular income coming in. But that's the step you have to make in order to make that next step up, because the part-time teams really do struggle in the National League, because it's not a non-league, the National League anymore. It's League 4.
Yeah, we saw with like Dorking and Oxford City went up last year, and they found that Dorking spent 2 years in there, admittedly, but the gap is huge when you're semi-pro. And like you say, look at the National League now. You're looking at, I'm sure Scunthorpe are full-time, as we've alluded to, but I think Scarborough full-time again these days. I know Kidderminster are. South Shields might be, because they've got a fair bit of backing, haven't they?
That's gone now, that backing.
Oh, is that gone now?
Yeah, he's pulled a lot of that out.
They did have big money behind at one point.
We absolutely destroyed them in the second half of last season, but we also absolutely destroyed Scunthorpe, so I was at home with COVID, nearly dying. I walked halfway to the ground, and then I had to turn around and come back. I had no energy. And then luckily it were on National League TV, so I still got to watch it. We absolutely battered them 3-0. I was like, yeah, I won us this game by going home.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It is a mad league, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, again, looking down the bottom, you've got, I mean, personally, Marine, who, you know, I've been a couple of times, tiny club in Crosby in North Liverpool. You know, living off the Tottenham game in terms of the budget. Lovely club, like, went and met the chairman once when I went round, and my name's on the donation wall there, because I gave money towards the Spurs game during COVID and stuff like that. And, you know, but you think about them in the same league as like Scunthorpe and Chester, and Chester part-time, but actually you can, it's like, whoa, you know, you've got Radcliffe who are down the bottom, even though they're heavily backed, or they certainly were.
Yeah, a little thing on Radcliffe. Thoughts with Radcliffe Borough at the moment. Their chairman died over the weekend, so thoughts with them.
Yeah, that's awful news. Awful news.
It's when I used to live in Hayward and Bury, they were obviously quite close, Radcliffe near to Bury. I think Nicky Adams is still there, that used to play for Rochdale and Bury and a few other teams. I think he played for Northampton, Nicky Adams. I'm just going to have a quick look. I'm sure Nicky Adams is still there, but
it's them two from Salford.
Salford managers around the charge.
Ex-Spenny managers as well.
Yeah.
Ex-Spenny as well.
Yeah, man. They just got horrible clubs. But yeah, we've already played Marine this year. Yeah. We were going to go, but it were on National League TV, so we bought it. They were literally just filming the game out of someone's bedroom window behind the covered terrace, so you could hardly see half the pitch.
No, you've literally got one stand behind the goal. You've got a little bit of standing area down one side, but because the ground's packed in between two residential streets, they can't build anything. If they go any higher up, they're going to have to build a new ground, because there's no way they can go any higher than they are now with the ground they've got. And literally the far end's just a mound where, you know, it's a proper throwback. It's a lovely little ground, but you literally go straight out to Crosby High Street from the stadium, and it's like you're able to nip out for a drink at half time. It's great. But
we went when we were a few leagues below. The food stand just sold pot noodles. They didn't have anything.
Sounds like Camel Club.
pot noodles and Mars bars. That's all they had.
I mean, that's all you need, really. and a pint, possibly, put that in there.
No, weird little club, Marine. I remember when we got them in one of the cups, and they came to Heritage Park when we played there, and they must have brought like a minibus load of kids. I mean, it scored and they all went absolutely berserk, but there weren't a single adult fan for them there. They were all just a bus full of like under 14s, just going absolutely mental. Weird little club.
Interesting.
Or just day release.
Day release. Just looking at my phone, we've got a few half-time scores cropping up. We've got the EFL Cup, they call it. Well, I like to call it the League Cup. Half-time, Chelsea 3, Barrow 0. Half-time, Man City 2, Watford 0. Half-time, Walsall 0, Leicester 0. Half-time, oh no, we're still playing actually. It's nearly half-time with Wickham 0, Aston Villa 0. And Rochdale are playing tonight. We're playing Hartlepool away from home. Yeah. That's half-time, and Rochdale are winning 1-0.
Ah, lovely.
So, McBride, I'll take that. I'll take 1-0. If we could get a couple more, gets the cushion.
I think you've got Hartlepool still there, Chris.
It's not...
Start singing anti-Hartlepool songs at uni.
I'm not really that bothered about them anymore, to be fair. We haven't played them for, like... My 18th birthday was the last time we played them.
Oh, crikey.
We played him in the Durham Challenge Cup, to be fair, a couple of years ago, and it was a complete sellout of Blackwell Meadows. Complete sellout of the 2,500. We lost, but yeah, I'm just not bothered. Like if we got him in the trophy of the cup, then the hatred would come back. But I've seen us play more. I've had this argument with people before because people are adamant that Spennymoor aren't our rivals. They're literally like 10 minutes down the road. We've gone head to head with them for league titles. We've faced them in playoffs. We've had plenty of hot-tempered games against them, like more against them than I can remember us having against Hartlepool. So people just need to sometimes accept where we are, accept the fact that there's a very good chance we're never going to play Hartlepool ever again. And just accept your new rivals. We've probably played in recent years about 20 odd games against Spenny, and none of them have been nice. We've had a stand pretty much collapse when we were there because of them treating us like crap. We've had a fight on the pitch. The managers were scrapping on the pitch a couple of seasons ago. One of their officials went to get the ball when it was still in play, basically took our player out and all kicked off. Alan Armstrong was bloody calling their manager out. They were scrapping in the tunnel. I just don't know why people are hell-bent on trying to keep the past present. Like, just embrace like the new hatred. Like, just hate them. They sing horrible songs about us all the time, calling us all the names under the sun. Embrace it. Just hurl it back at them. But you got people complaining like, I'm not going to go to Spennymoor because they're all hostile towards us and I don't like it. It's like, wait, man. It's what a bloody derby game's about. So when did everyone get so soft? Like, when was anyone worried about going to the footy and getting called a wanker? Like, when did that stop?
Yeah.
The Darlo Spennymoor thing is fascinating. It's the kind of content I'd love to see that. I don't know why more YouTubers or whatever haven't gone up and covered that game, because it sounds insane. It sounds like a very modern rivalry. I suppose what's happened with Darlo, you played that many local teams over the last decade or so. And to finally found a new rival in Spennymoor is I wouldn't say nice, obviously they sound fucking horrible, but it's really good that you've got that rival at that level that you know they're always going to be there to hate.
They don't bring anyone to Darlo. It's weird. So, like, when we go there, we take as many as they'll let us take. And to be fair, when we play there, they bring in like an extra 1,000 turn out to watch them. But when they come to us, they barely bring 200, and it's strange. So, when we go there, it's particularly horrible, and it does feel like a proper derby day. But when they come to us, it doesn't, because... well, they don't bring anyone. It's segregated and they don't bring anyone, so there's like a few of them dotted behind the goal, but that's it. I just don't really understand why so many of their absolute mental kids turn up to the home game and don't come to the away one, because they can literally just jump on the number one bus from Spennymoor Town Centre and it'll drop them off in Darlo in an hour's time. But yeah, it's a strange one, but Yeah.
It's a strange one, but I think that does slightly point maybe to the size of both clubs, certainly historically, is that Darlo have always had that swell of support as a League Two and National League club, whereas Spennymoor, I mean, I'm just off the top of my head, I've kind of been kind of a nouveau team that have come up from the regional leagues along with yourselves in the last decade or so.
They're a vanity project.
Any more in terms of they're not been any higher than the sixth tier. So with that comes a bit like the Salford City syndrome, where you might have decent home fans because people will come to you as a home game, but their away support is largely non-existent because they haven't got the proper hardcore support yet. Maybe in another decade or so they might do, but they seem to me like a very sort of new, not a new club, I'm sure they're an old club, but in terms of like being at this level even, I don't think they've been this high before. So whether that ties in with the size of the fan base that you clearly dwarf with your history of being a football league club and national league club compared to them being a park team, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a few of these little, because they're a bit of a vanity project with a lot of money getting pumped in. There's another one just down the road, Stockton Town, or another one which coming up. I think they're just in the league below us now, so they're pushing to get up to the next level. But now there's quite a lot of these, and obviously South Shields are another one where a lot of money's being pumped in. So yeah, there's a lot of them around here at the moment. But it'll be good because. But then Gateshead they're doing well in the National League, and I don't know how, because they don't own that stadium. So they must have some sort of serious owners. But yeah, they're a weird one, because Gateshead were always one of them ones where I always thought like they were on the brink of it all collapsing, but they seem to be doing alright this year. I'm not sure if they'll be able to get promoted because they got kicked out of the playoffs, didn't they?
Yeah, that was sad. Literally got into the playoffs and it's like you're not allowed because of the terms of the lease or something. They
didn't have a lease for 10 years or something.
Absolute far. I mean, I can kind of see it if that's the Football League's rules, but so if that's been the case as you've gone into the playoffs rather than at the start of the season, it's a shame for the fans that Gateshead do have. Not the players as well who worked them hard throughout the season, but
yeah, they haven't got any fans.
No, they haven't. Well, when you and I went that time in the FA Trophy,
I mean,
they didn't have many then. I know that much, but yeah, another strange club. There seems to be a rise, certainly in North East football at the moment. Like you say, with Stockton, I think Hebden Town have gone up to the 7th tier as well, and there's a few clubs now. I think Newton Aycliffe are on the rise, and a few other clubs that are.
Newton Aycliffe. Hebden are one of the dirtiest teams I've ever seen in my life. Hebden. So we went there. I think they had 3 sent off in the first half. They had because it was that season where we literally won every game 6 or 7-0, and their game plan was to just kick us off the field. It was clear. That was when we realised this is the level we're at, where a team would have this game plan. Yeah, I'm sure they were down to 9 or 8 men in the first half. Absolutely horrific.
That's fantastic. Well, that really is a realisation that you've been sent down about 4 divisions, isn't it? When you turn up to someone's park and they just kick lumps out of you. Oh God. Funny one with just the rise of the clubs. But yeah, you must have seen so many stories down the years, because obviously I know you went when you went to the Northern League Division 1.
Yeah, I missed 1 game in the Northern League. No, I missed 2 because we boycotted West Auckland because they put the prices of the tickets up to 14 quid. So we were nah, we're not going. So boycotted that. And then there were Penrith away on a Tuesday night, because that would chew to get to. But now we went to some proper Raj places. There was that, don't know about it, Celtic Nation, that team in Carlisle.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, we went there, and honest to God, there were no home fans there at all. It were all away fans. There weren't many of us there, because obviously Carlisle's a bit of a trek for a Northern League game. But that was a weird one, because someone had bought out, was it, they call Carlisle Town or something like that, bought him out, turned him into Celtic Nation, because he was obsessed with Celtic, changed the kit to green and white. Yeah, and just didn't bring any fans in. I think they went bust.
And then I think you've got Cleator Celtic that aren't far from there. So whether the same person has gone to the village of Cleator and just started another Celtic.
Probably.
You should start Celtics around the Cumbria region. Very odd.
Yeah, but they went bust in the end. Like I said, there were no home fans there, so I'm not bloody surprised. But yeah.
Wasn't it West Auckland as well? He played for the world champions at one point.
Yeah, so the story behind that was there was obviously the first World Cup wasn't really an international tournament as such. It was the invited teams to it, and Arsenal were called something like West Arsenal or something like that. So it were like WAFC. The story behind it is West Auckland accidentally got invited to the tournament. They were supposed to invite Arsenal instead. But they got it mixed up with the abbreviation, ended up inviting West Auckland over, and they won the whole thing. There's a nice little statue in the village centre.
Village centre,
yeah.
That's amazing. Can't believe you got Woolwich Arsenal and West Auckland. That's completely different parts of the country. That's spectacular.
But yeah, that's the story of that. So they were invited by accident and won the whole thing. And
like literally their stadium, I think it's even on the badge, like unofficial world champions or something, isn't it? And it's like, oh come on, let's give it up. It's been over 100 years. Move on.
Yeah, I did eventually go there. We got them in the FA Cup, and they kept the prices the same that time, so we went that year. But no, it was that were a weird season because it was quite boring. Because obviously we won every game, I battered most teams, so we either won by a landslide or the few games we didn't win were absolutely fuming. So standout games we didn't win, we lost to Newton Aycliffe, which will be that. I know we lost 8-0 to Chorley this season just gone, but losing to Newton Aycliffe will be as low as it ever gets as a Darlington fan. It's not going to get much lower. I think we drew 0-0 with Team Northumbria away. Yeah, we drew 0-0 with them. It was absolutely freezing as well, so absolutely Baltic, and it was one of the worst games of football I've ever watched. And we were just looking forward to going to the cinema afterwards. We were like, just by the Metro Centre, so But yeah, it was weird because we were either bored or angry.
Yeah.
And then we won the league, and that was it.
It must be your reputation of being what it feels like to be a Real Madrid fan, I guess. Really expecting to win. When you don't win, you're fuming, and you win something and go, "Oh, we expect to win that." Oh well, move on then.
Yeah, but that was the only easy season. I think it took us 2 seasons to get out the next league. I think we went up through the playoffs. We were in the playoffs twice. Them two from who went to Salford.
Yeah.
They're going to call them the angry twins. They were in charge of Ramsbottom at the time. We got them in the playoffs. And their tactic was to break Leon Scott's leg straight from kick-off, and they did that. So we lost to them. The season after that, we played Spenny, beat them with a stoppage stoppage time at the end of the game winner. That were bloody mental. And then we beat, was it Bamber Bridge? I'm pretty sure it was Bamber Bridge. We beat them in the final. That was the season we were head-to-head with Salford for most of the league campaign, where the BBC tried to make us be their arch rivals. But that was fun, going head-to-head with Salford for them couple of seasons. They probably still don't like us. I don't particularly like them, but I don't particularly like Gary Neville and all them, so that doesn't really help.
I don't think anyone likes Salford, really.
No, Ellis Platten did a video about him this last week, the club that no one cares about. It looks even worse than it did when we used to go.
Yeah. It's bad. Like, we went a couple of years ago, Rovers won 1-0, and they ran out of coffee at half time. It's like...
I didn't know you went to the away game, Jim. Yeah, I didn't know you went to the away game.
I've got a couple of years ago now, like,
yeah.
It wasn't, yeah. But yeah, Matt and I went with his girlfriend's dad, who they used to live around the corner from Salford City, so...
The Peninsula Stadium.
It's a bizarre stadium. It's a very sort of Lego-esque... it looks like it can be pulled apart easy, doesn't it, in terms of...
It can. It can. That's how it went up so quickly. It's all them, them bolt-in terraces. They're not even flat. They're like angled because it's built on a hill. Because
Yes.
I've been there a few times, so I slowly saw this stadium get built up. I've stood at every corner of that ground. So when I first went, it were that old stand alongside the pitch, that lovely old stand, which they said they weren't going to get rid of, but they did because it's gone. There were that, and then it was just mud around the rest of the pitch. So there were that, and then eventually they built up a couple of them stands. So there was a seated stand along the opposite side where that old stand was, but that was still there. And then the terrace, which is their home end, went up. So we stood on that. But yeah, it's like angled, so it steps down because they didn't bother to flatten it. But it's all just metal bolted in terracing. So it's just popped it up. They could just take that down and move it wherever they want, really. But yeah, it's a weird little ground. It's in a weird area. It's literally just surrounded by houses. Yeah. There's no pubs anywhere near anything.
Is it technically in Prestwich? Is that right? Is it technically Prestwich or is it Whitefield?
I think it is Prestwich, isn't it?
Is it Prestwich?
It's not in Salford. That's for sure.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's nowhere near, is it? Which is, I was surprised when I first went. I was surprised in terms of its location. I was like, it's nearer to Bury, if anything. But that's where we are. They did have ambitions to move to the rugby ground at the, is it Salford Red Devils? Yeah, they had, but that sort of fell on its arse. That idea, that idea fell on its arse after a while, didn't it?
Well, no one goes. So what would be the point?
Exactly. Yeah.
The rugby team was playing it. They get much better attendances.